Was afraid I was losing my passion for photography. Photographing squirrels was becoming a bit repetitive, and it wasn't bringing in the income I thought it would. Just as I was about to list my gear on eBay to make some money, something happened to remind me just how much photography has changed my life. I'm pretty sure most photographers, whether hobbyists or professionals, go through at least one episode of burnout in their lifetime. When I picked up my first mirrorless camera a few years ago, the Lumix G95, I was completely enamored with learning how to use it, and then I became absolutely consumed with finding a camera with even better specs. And I hate to admit it, but at the time, learning proper composition and lighting techniques was only an afterthought. From the very beginning, I did have a dream of earning an income with my camera, either through photography or videography. But so far, it really hasn't panned out. But aside from earning a couple $100 on YouTube, photography and videography so far isn't paying the bills. When I thought about how much money I could make by selling the Sony a7 IV, I tried to convince myself that I wouldn't miss taking photos of squirrels, and I could always use my cell phone. But what stopped me in my tracks is a seemingly ridiculous photograph of a doll. A few years before my mom passed away of heart failure in 2013, we used to get so much enjoyment out of collecting Barbie dolls. And after she passed away, and my central vision had gotten worse, I decided to give the whole doll collection away because even from a few feet away, I couldn't really distinguish the details of their faces very well. The other day, I came across a few of the dolls I had in storage, and I decided to try my hand at doll photography. I see a lot of people doing it on Instagram, and it was so rainy out I didn't feel like taking out my camera to do my normal squirrel walk. But after viewing a few of the images on my 27-inch monitor using my magnification software, it suddenly struck me that I could still enjoy collecting dolls even if I couldn't see the details standing in front of the display case. As I started testing out different lighting setups and backdrops, I could feel the passion for photography start to return. It was just like when I took my first close-up of a squirrel and saw that curious expression on its little face. I know doll photography is an acquired taste, but this experience has definitely reminded me of how much photography lets me see in fine detail that my impaired retinas won't let me see in real time. I was born with underdeveloped optic nerves and congenital cataracts, and when I was in my early 20s, both of my retinas had giant retinal tears and completely detached. After multiple repair surgeries to the retinas, I developed scar tissue in my right eye, which was a better seeing eye, and then I got a hole in the macula, so my detailed vision just isn't there unless I use magnification. I've been legally blind for over 20 years now, and to be honest with you, I didn't think photography or videography were things that I could do without a lot of complication. But then I started to see videos featuring blind photographers with a lot less vision than I have, and it made me think if they could do it, maybe I could.
This is Gary, otherwise known as Swirly Magnolia, fantastic street photographer, and he's registered blind.
Now, when I first met Gary, it was a couple of years ago out in the field whilst I was shooting, and I bumped into him, and when he told me that he was blind, well, the first thing that came to my mind was, well, how can you be blind and be a photographer? It just doesn't make sense. Well, hopefully by the end of this video, it will make sense. So the first thing I asked Gary to show me was, well, what does he actually see?
So if I'm looking here, I can see the fingertips because they're against the grey glove. But as I move them against the other fingertips, they've now vanished. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that today. And if I go that, it's vanished. So I need to be looking for that contrast. That's how I work. I'm looking for the spaces, the gaps, the light coming between things.
Ever get any strange reactions when you have a cane in one hand and a camera in the other?
I feel there is. And it just plays on your mind. But, and I spoke to, I was once at top of Sky Garden in London, and the paranoia was driving me crazy. And I said to my wife, is anybody looking? And she went, do you want the honest answer? And I went, yes, please. And she said, everybody. And I thought, oh. And at the same time, a weight was lifted from my mind because it stopped paranoia. I knew people were looking, and I immediately relaxed.
I don't take out my white cane as much as I should, My friend told me I should use it when doing photography because people would leave me alone, especially in crowded places like museums. But I tried to explain to her that a lot of people don't realize blindness is a spectrum. They expect you to see nothing, and they get confused if you have a camera in your hand, but it would have prevented me walking off a flight of steps at the Detroit Institute of Arts. And when I watched this video from Unsightly Opinions on how she actually frames up her shot, it made me realize that I don't have any excuses.
I want to talk about camera setup. This is something I don't find to be very accessible, so every time I have to set up a camera, I ask for sighted assistance. Depending on the situation, I may use an iPhone or a DSLR. I want to chat about my DSLR. I am using a Lumix G7. I picked this model for a couple of reasons. The first one was it was relatively inexpensive and an entry-level DSLR camera. The second one being it had a lot of tactile buttons that allowed me to do the basic navigation that I needed to do on the camera. So I can start and stop a shot, I can focus a shot, I can turn it on and off. It'll give me auditory cues if the battery's dying, if the SD card's full. It gives me a lot of auditory and tactile feedback that really help me navigate the camera. When it comes to changing the setting, I do have a tactile dot on the top of my camera, which helps me know that it's on the correct video setting, and I have the same on my lens so that I know that it's in its proper position for focus. I don't typically touch those, but having those on my camera, adding those little accessibility features, makes it accessible so I can double check and make sure something hasn't been bumped or moved. And if you're looking at my camera, you can probably see that we've tried a couple of different things here in terms of camera positioning. You may see that I have these fuzzy dots. This was our original position for the camera, but we realized very quickly that if the camera gets nudged even just a little bit off of those dots, and I won't necessarily notice if that's happened, it's a completely different shot. So what we've done is we've actually taped the camera to a tripod on a shelf in this closet here, so it cannot move.
Examples like this definitely had motivated me to take out my camera in public, but it wasn't easy going. I couldn't read the settings outdoors, and I was a little embarrassed to use my magnifier. But after learning a lot more about the exposure triangle, and also realizing that I could save some settings for different scenarios in my camera, it got a little bit easier. At first I thought it was rare for someone with a physical limitation to do photography, but after watching this video from Tony and Chelsea Northrup, I've come to realize that there's people with all sorts of physical impairments that do photography.
We've known people that have been paralyzed that have used photography to see the world, people going through various personal crises, from personal loss to losing a job to making some big transition in their life. And what people tell us is that photography has helped them. It's given them some focus. It makes them see the world in a more positive way.
I've had a lot of people tell me that photography saved their life.
Yeah.
And not just one, but many people have told me that.
Yeah, we're not exaggerating. For some people, when they're at their lowest moments, to have a hobby where they can really see the world and concentrate and be completely enveloped in something as positive as photography is, it's really helpful. And it can also link you to a community of people. It gets you outside if you do wildlife photography or street photography. It gives you a purpose to go out and to do something. And aside from that, I think overall, even if you're not going through a crisis in your life, it forces you to slow down and really look at your surroundings in a new way.
It was fascinating to watch the story of a photographer who's actually quadriplegic and to see exactly how he uses his camera.
After I got hurt, it was painful to sit on the sidelines and watch other people play sports and participate and not be involved. When I started this interest in photography, it was an opportunity to get back into sports again. My name is Lauren Worthington, and I'm a photographer. When I was 21 years old, I wanted to be a baseball player. I was playing one evening and I hit a great double that was a lousy triple. And I slid into third base, came in contact with the other player's knee, and it pinched my spinal cord. The result of that was paralysis. I'm a C5-6 quadriplegic. I've been in the wheelchair for the past 30 years. It wasn't until almost 20 years after my injury that I picked up a camera. Adapting the camera is kind of an extension of learning how to deal with a disability. I cannot use my right fingers. What I figured out is that I could use an external shutter control with my mouth and take the photograph. The type of photography that I do is about people who are involved in adaptive sports. And I felt my best photographs were of people with disabilities because they saw in me somebody that they could open up to. When I take photos of athletes, I want to show them as somebody who works hard, who competes hard, and who wants to win. That really shows more about the athlete than the disability.
And then I discovered a deaf fashion photographer, Masu. He gave some great advice on how to get started in photography. Some of the most brilliant wildlife photography I've come across comes from a photographer named Ali Hallowell. He happens to have Down syndrome. I came across his work when I was watching Gweck's photo video channel.
My name's Oliver. I'm from Somerset. I'm a landscape and wildlife photographer. I first picked up a camera from age of 9, and then I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. When I'm out and about, I use my long lens, and I do flowers or nature or anything that looks pretty. Look at that. I like this particularly.
Oh, that is lovely, isn't it? Ollie's got the 100 to 500.
Yeah.
I've got the 100 to 300, but we're going to swap and give Ollie a taste of what it's like to shoot potentially at f2.8 across the range.
Across the
Shall we
range.
swap?
Yes.
Let's swap.
Let's
Come on,
swap.
Let's swap. Bang. There we go.
Ideal.
Come on, then. It's always better when it's a bit more overcast, isn't it? Oh, this is lovely, though.
Very good, this sounds.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. I was to shoot with a UMX when I first started with that, and then now I use the R6 Mark II. I'm a Canon man, yeah.
That's really good. That's exactly the shot that I wanted.
Another one?
Oh, stop showing off now.
I took a swan with the head in the focus, and my dad was there, and he didn't get it. But it was perfect shot, and my dad was peeved afterwards when he got it.
I would be over the moon if I ever got a photo of swans like that. And then I came across this story of a fashion photographer out of Chicago named Clyde Scott. After he suffered from a stroke, his doctor told him he'd have to give up photography.
You're going to have to give up photography. You're not going to have that movement that you need to hold that camera. You won't have the strength for it.
But ever determined, Scott said, no way.
My response to the doctor was, I serve a whole different God that is going to bring me out of this.
So he had another conversation, this time with God.
I'm curious about those conversations that you had with God.
Yes, ma'am.
Conversations of why and what happened. What was that like?
And my conversations were, if you bring me out of this, I'm going to do something great. I'm going to utilize every ounce of life in my body to build something great.
He began to battle with the vengeance.
I kept forcing myself to move. They put me into therapy, and I fought and I fought.
It has been an intense struggle, but finally, Scott was able to not just hold his camera, but shoot with it on his own.
Every last thing that I had forgotten came back in a matter of seconds. It was a rebirth.
Scott says he never wants anyone to struggle like he did.
This is what it looks like with the swelling.
So he decided to include a stroke awareness portion in each of his fashion shows.
You incorporate the education in the performance.
I do. That is correct. I have medical staff that will come into the show that will speak about prevention, will speak about how to have the signs. I want to help people to not have to go through what I went through.
After watching these stories, I've come to realize that I'm not the only one whose life has been positively impacted by photography. I know I've been taking photography for granted. It's been a real blessing to even have a camera and some lenses. It's funny how a simple photo of a doll can make you realize how much photography actually means to you. I've decided I'm going to get back out there and start shooting more. If you like this video, give it a like, consider subscribing for more photography-related content from a newbie like me. God bless.